Hi guys, and welcome to another video of Ancient Greece Reloaded. In this video we will talk about the 5 ages of humanity, mainly based on Hesiod's works, a little bit about Atlantis, and we will also try to pinpoint the ages chronologically, based on ancient Greek sources. Before we jump into it, please do not forget to like our video and to subscribe to our channel. In this way you help others by spreading the word of the project called Ancient Greece Reloaded, and we thank you for that, guys. Also, look at the video description below, in which we provide direct links to all of the source material that has been used for this video. Now, to our subject. In Hesiod's works and days, the 5 ages of humanity are the following ones: the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, the Heroic Age, and the Iron Age. The Golden Age. The Golden Age was created by Kronos and lived under his rulership. These humans were said to live among the gods and freely mingled with them. Peace and harmony prevailed during this age. Humans did not have to work to feed themselves, for the earth provided food in abundance. They lived to a very old age, but with a youthful appearance. In other words, these people lived for entire millennia. Eventually, when they decided to die, meaning if they wanted to move entirely to the spiritual world, they died peacefully. As a matter of fact, when they died, it was as if they were falling asleep. Their spirits lived on as guardians. What is more, Plato in Cratylus recounts the golden race of men who came first. He clarifies that Hesiod did not mean men literally made of gold, but good and noble people. He describes these men as demons upon the earth. Please note, since demones is derived from daimones, meaning knowing or wise, they are beneficent, preventing ills, and guardians of mortals, completely different with how people classify demons today. Consequently, from a mythological timeline, we know that the Golden Race lived during the rulership of Kronos and before the Titanomachy. By the time the Titanomachy was initiated, the Golden Race either was no more or they did play a minor part in all of it. One way or another, we can safely assume that after the Titanomachy, the Golden Race disappeared from the face of Earth. What is more, due to the lack of resources, the Golden Race is the only race that cannot be pinpointed in time, unfortunately. The Silver Age. During Hesiod's Silver Age, the Olympian god Zeus was in charge. Zeus caused this generation of man to be created inferior in appearance and wisdom when compared to the Golden Race. Also, Zeus divided the year into 4 seasons, and from this common we can also pinpoint from a time frame manner the myth of Demeter, Persephone, and Hades. Back to the Silver Age. Man had to plant grain and seek shelter, but still a child could play for 100 years before growing up. As adults, they lived only a short time compared to the Golden Race and spent that time in strife with one another. When they died, they became blessed spirits of the underworld. Moreover, the Silver Race consisted of 3 genders, males, females, and a mix of these 2 genders known as hermaphrodites. In this case, however, the hermaphrodites, sorry for the bad pronunciation, were not the typical beings that are known from famous ancient Greek myths, but they were more like human-type male-female beings that had 4 arms, 4 legs, round bodies, and 2 heads. Regarding the 3rd gender, the problem for the gods was that they possessed tremendous power and could pose a threat to the Olympians. Consequently, before destroying the entire Silver Race, the gods destroyed these beings first. From a mythological timeline, the Silver Race lived in the time between the Titanomachy and the Gigantomachy. How can we be so sure about it? Due to 2 factors. One will be answered in the Bronze Age section, while the second can be explained as follows. Long before the gods fought against the giants, the Silver Race managed to anger the gods big time. And here is why. The Silver Race pretty much did not care about the gods and did things as they saw fit. The people of the Silver Race lived short lives compared to the Golden Race because of their foolishness to keep sinning and for not listening and honoring the gods. So the time came for Zeus to say enough is enough and decided to destroy the entire Silver Race with a flood that became known as one of the 3 great floods in ancient Greek texts, most probably referring to the flood of Ogyges. And although we cannot know when the Silver Race started to exist, nevertheless we can pretty much pinpoint when they were destroyed. For that purpose, let us take a look at a few points. The name Ogyges and Ogygian, or whatever it's pronounced, is synonymous with primeval, primal, and earliest dawn. Plato in Timaeus and Critias describes the great deluge of all as having been preceded at least by 9,000 years of history before the time of his contemporary Solon, meaning that Plato was putting this date back to at least 10,000 BC. What does science have to say about it? That the last glacial period was the most recent glacial period within the current ice age, which began about 110,000 years ago and ended about 15,000 years ago. In other terms, Plato was referring to the end of the last glacial period. Long story short, we dare to make an assumption here. The gods destroyed the silver race sometime around the last glacial period, aka sometime between 15,000 to 13,000 BC. Another fact that supports this assumption, and always following the scripts referring to ancient Greek mythology, is that the silver race did not participate in the gigantomachy. Consequently, the silver race preceded the war of gods versus giants. The Bronze Age. The Bronze Age basically describes the civilization that existed before, during and a little bit afterwards of the war between Atlantis and Athens, which happened around 9500 BC. Keep in mind that, although according to official history, bronze started to become mainstream sometime around 3500 BC, yet findings of bronze or of artifacts that also included at least some type of bronze mixture are much older. Back to our story. Men of the Bronze Age were hardened and tough, as war was their purpose and passion. Zeus created these humans out of the ash tree. Their armor was forged of bronze, as were their homes and tools. The men of this age were undone by their own violent ways, and left no named spirits. Instead, they dwelt in the dung houses of Hades. On some accounts, this age came to end with the flood of Deucalion, which happened around 10,000 BC. As a side note, the third great flood, the one of Dardanus, happened around 4000 BC. Nevertheless, when studying the ancient Greek scripts, there are two facts that we can safely assume about the Bronze Age. One, they participated in the gigantomachy. Two, their race ended with the famous war between Atlantis and Athens. So why the gigantomachy? When the gigantomachy was initiated, an oracle had foretold Zeus that the immortal gods of Mount Olympus could not win the war against the giants unless they were aided in the fight by a mortal. Hence, we can safely assume that humans were around, so as for the gods to be able to find them. Consequently, Zeus did send out Athena to find the mortals that could aid the gods to win this war. Nevertheless, since Athena was, among other things, the goddess of wisdom, she did find a loophole in the oracle's prophecy and did seek out the two strongest semi-gods that could assist them in the war, namely Hercules and Dionysus. Hercules was the son of Zeus and Alcmene. Dionysus was the son of Zeus and Semele. So here is the loophole. From their mother's side they were both mortals, but since their father was Zeus, both of them brought with them godlike powers. Consequently, Hercules and Dionysus did aid the Olympian gods, and the Olympians managed to defeat the giants. Moreover, when following the mythological timeline, Greek mythology provides us with some additional facts to why the Bronze Age occurred during and before the time of the Great War known as Atlantis versus Athens. To begin with, so far the timeline order that we have discussed is like this: Golden Race, Titanomachy; Silver Age, destruction of the Silver Race; Bronze Race, Gigantomachy, Atlantis versus Athens. So what additional info does Greek mythology provide us with? That there was a dispute going on between Athena and Poseidon. It all started when the mythological city of Athens was created. The Athenians decided to accept the gift of Athena rather than the one of Poseidon. Also keep in mind that the ancient city of Athens, in regards to Plato's time, etc., is the second one that was built after the original mythical city of Athens. So the name of Athens was the first of the disputes. The second one was the war between Atlantis and Athens, while the third one was the one of the Trojan War. Also keep in mind that after the Titanomachy, Zeus did forbid the gods to fight and to kill each other. Hence, whenever the gods had a disagreement among them, they used proxies, aka humans. And that is why, when studying ancient Greek texts, the gods do not kill each other, but instead they support their heroes to perform the deeds for the god. Long story short, when the Bronze Race reached its apex, the final chapter was written with the great and famous war of Atlantis versus Athens. At this point, let us talk a little bit about this war. At the apex of the Bronze Age, there were mainly two main powers, Atlantis and Athens. Atlantis being the city of Poseidon, while Athens being the city of Athena. Eventually, Atlantis grew arrogant and decided to conquer the entire world. The only one opposing them was an alliance that was led by Athens and by and large consisted of Athens and Greece, Egypt, Persia and India. In other words, the same kingdoms that Alexander the Great tried to unite. Coincidence? Eventually the two alliances clashed against each other, and as the war continued, in the end the only one still standing was Athens. However, Athens was cornered and was given two options: surrender or fight it out to the end. So what did the mythical city of Athens decide to do? What the Spartans did thousands of years later. Athens decided to never surrender, to never give in, and to always push forward. Consequently, Athens launched an all-out final attack against Atlantis, guns blazing style, and come what may, and believe it or not, Athens turned the tide of war. Athens was able to defeat Atlantis in all fronts, to push them back to their island and to destroy all of Atlantis' forces. Unbelievable, yet it did happen. What is more unbelievable is what followed, and although we do not know exactly what initiated everything, yet we do know how it all ended. Kaboom! Possible explanations: aliens, nukes, great floods, meteor, earthquakes. No idea. Bottom line is that from that point onwards it was only downhill for the Bronze Race, and eventually the rise of the Heroic Age occurred. The Heroic Age. After the Bronze Age, Zeus created another race, an honorable race of heroes who were noble and respected the gods. Among them were also individuals with divine qualities, called semigods. Please note guys, the correct term is semigods. The term demigods, although nowadays has the same meaning with semigods, originates from the Roman poet Ovid, and the word that Ovid did use was semideus. Now moving on. When exactly the heroic race appeared remains unclear, but we do know that the heroic race was the one that participated in the wars of Thebes and the Trojan War. The souls of those who passed away went to a special place called the Elysian Fields. What is more, the Trojan War did have a tremendous effect regarding the fall of the heroic race. It was a war in which most of the ancient Greek heroes did fight it out against each other in, let us say, a single battlefield. The reason? Many semi-gods had the power to stand their own ground against the gods of Olympus, for example Diomedes. So according to some sources and contrast to the mainstream version, Zeus decided to end the heroic race and to make sure that the gods would not face any further danger. And what better way was there to start a war that would include all kingdoms and heroes? And what better way was there to make sure that all of the heroes would fight and kill each other in a single battlefield? And this is also why we see that the gods were super active before and during the Trojan War. How it started? By placing a human, in this case Paris, to make a lose-lose decision, and from there everything went downhill for the heroic age, and that is described by the myth of Ares and the judgment of Paris. Eventually the heroic race came to an end and the Iron Age was next in line, which started roughly 1000 BC. The Iron Age. And finally Zeus created the last race of man, called the Iron Race, where Hesiod puts himself in. It is a time of constant stress and labor, morality is gone and men are constantly opposing each other, lying and seeding mistrust. It is a time where humans grow old quickly and are constantly beset by troubles and pressures. At the peak of this age, people will no longer feel shame or regret at wrongdoing, and there will be no help against evil. Mankind will be forsaken by the gods and goddesses, and Zeus is set to return one day to destroy this race, just like he had done it in the past. Guys, you need to notice something here. As iron rusts, so shall human beings rust through time and die. And now please pay attention. When you study ancient Greek mythology, you should not take everything at face value, but each myth and story has something to teach you. Meaning that the term Iron Age is no coincidence. Here is why. Rust is created by a reaction of iron and oxygen in the presence of water or air moisture. Moreover, given sufficient time, oxygen and water, any iron mass will eventually convert entirely to rust and disintegrate. The two main components for us humans to exist are water and oxygen. Yet, these two components that allow us to live are also the ones that are mainly responsible for the creation of rust on iron. Add to it the fact of time, which implies something finite, aka not immortal, and you get why Hesiod classified us as the Iron Age. Plus the fact that at the apex of our civilization, in which all morals will be gone, the gods will return to destroy us as they did in the past with all other races. So where does it leave us? Well, we prefer to end a video in an unorthodox way with the following words. I should say we belong to something, that once upon a time this earth was no man's land, that other worlds explored and colonized here and fought among themselves for possession, but that now it's owned by something. That something owns this earth. I suspect that after all we're useful, that something now has a legal right to us by force or by having paid out analogous of beads for us to form a more primitive owner of us. That all this has been known, perhaps for ages, to certain ones upon this earth, which function like bellwethers to the rest of us, or as superior slaves or overseers, directing us in accordance with the instructions received from somewhere else in our mysterious usefulness. The Book of the Damned by Charles Hoy Ford. And at this point we have reached the end of our video. If you would like to read more about what we did discuss in this video, check out the links provided in the video description below. If you want to talk to us directly, you can visit our forum. And do not forget to like our video and to subscribe to our channel so as to support the project of Ancient Greece Reloaded. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for our upcoming videos.